Welcome to the Whole Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you become a fat burner, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hi everybody, it's Debbie Potts, and I'm doing a new episode of the Whole Athlete Podcast, and I'm excited to have another local person that is a video podcaster, Keto Carole Freeman from Redmond, Washington. Thanks for coming on, Carole.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, I met Carole. I listened to you speak at the Nutritional Therapy Association conference last month ago. And I was interested in your seminar that I think our listeners would love to hear your story, because we keep talking about keto adapted and ketosis and fat adapted, and endurance athletes and just people of all fitness levels and health want to learn more about ketosis, and you're kind of specializing in that now. So tell us a little bit about your journey into being the Keto Carole and your story.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I joke about it being like this slow moving Volkswagen bus through the desert is the journey that it took. It took a long time. It was slow going, roundabout to get there. So I was not looking for keto. I wasn't looking for a diet or anything like that. In fact, I'm a double graduate of Bastyr University. You're familiar here in the Seattle area. It's a great school, and I have a master's in nutrition and psychology, and I came out of that program with a strong belief that we should never put anybody on a restricted diet, that there was no way you could actually lose weight and keep it off. And in fact, I had the belief that putting somebody on a restricted diet with the goal of losing weight was only going to cause them greater harm than good, and that they would ultimately gain more weight back. And so we should just embrace everybody's body the way that it is and encourage them to basically give up hope that they could ever lose weight and keep it off, and just embrace their body as it was. And that's how I started practicing nutrition. I really believe that was true. And so then fast forward a few years, now it's 2014, I was involved in this terrible car accident. I was hit by a distracted driver. Yeah. Don't Facebook and drive, people.
Yep. Put the phone in the back seat or in the trunk. You don't need it on your lap looking at it.
Exactly. Turn it off if you can't resist. But I was hit by a distracted driver going about 35 miles an hour that didn't even tap on her brakes. She smashed into the back of my car, and there was a chain reaction of 5 cars ultimately, but I took most of the hit. And after the accident, I had crush injuries to my legs and symptoms from a brain injury, and I was bedridden and disabled for the better part of at least a year. Had to close down my practice, and my poor son, thankfully he's pretty awesome because he worked two jobs to support us. And I was desperate to get better. I couldn't figure out, when the brain injury symptoms hit, I couldn't figure out how to get over that. And doctors really didn't give me any hope of recovering from the symptoms I was experiencing. And so being bedridden for that long, you get a lot of time to do a lot of research. And so I turned back to my own beliefs that if we give our body what it really needs, it can heal itself. And so I started racking my brain, literally. Well, not literally. Figuratively, I started racking my brain with, what is it that I know of my own training that can help heal the brain? And I remembered very vaguely that we'd learned a tiny little bit about a ketogenic diet as an effective therapy for epilepsy in school. And I thought, well, if it works for epilepsy, maybe I should investigate that as something that would help me. Mm-hmm. And very quickly, as I started to read up on it and read all the research, I started to get really excited that it might be a really good way to heal my brain so that I could stop being bedridden and just get back to work. And I had no anticipation of all the other things it was going to do for me, but I very quickly, within days, my symptoms that were keeping me bedridden and disabled were going away. And then very quickly it became obvious that it was also going to be a really potent weight loss therapy for me. Now, having the belief that you can't lose weight and keep it off, I had embraced my body that was ever growing and my expanding waistline, all the while being in denial that I really wasn't healthy, despite what I thought I knew. And so in, the first 6 months of being on the ketogenic diet, I lost 60 pounds, 10 inches off my waist. I reversed metabolic syndrome. And again, that wasn't even my primary goal. And so it was just so interesting and so easy. And so then I started getting really excited at transforming my practice with this. And finally, I had the therapy that could align with my passion of actually helping people be really healthy on the inside and out, with a way that they could lose weight and keep it off, because it wasn't going to slow down the metabolism, and you get that satisfaction instead of ever increasing appetite and fatigue like most other diets out there. So that's the short version of a very long story, even though it's still long. So
that, I just found that so inspirational. And I think a lot of I just had to write something down, things that you said, and you said in the seminar too, you spoke at the conference, that it's learning that it's not just giving this diet that one size fits all for everyone, that you tried what we learned as a nutritionist and exercise. I'm a personal trainer for 25 years, and it's why I'm becoming a nutritional therapy practitioner. And I've talked about this on the show a lot, that we can't just help people by exercising more and eating less, and it's not a diet. And it obviously doesn't work, because you were saying when you spoke, and you just mentioned a little bit that you weren't a little person. If it all worked, we wouldn't have this obesity problems. We followed the stuff we learned in college. Like, I studied exercise science, nutrition in college, and tried to do some nutrition programs after college that I was like, this makes no sense. The whole food pyramid and all the books I'm reading for nutritional therapy school are just kind of what I think all of us on podcasts have a similar journey. People that have these new online coaching programs, and what you're doing is so inspirational, because you stopped and you thought outside the box. What I learned didn't quite make sense, and what works. And it is really experimenting like you did to figure out, what, all these carbohydrates are not making me slimmer and stronger and feeling good on the inside out. So that's good that you went on that journey. But I think a lot of people that listen to podcasts are becoming more aware of that. It's the people that don't listen to the podcasts are still not in the know, right?
Well, it's surprising how fast this is spreading. When I started this journey 2 years ago, nobody knew about it. They were all afraid of it. In fact, I was in the closet the first month that I even started it, because everybody that I went to school with was bashing me, like, how could you do that? That's terrible. You're going to ruin your metabolism. It's so bad for you. Despite the fact that I went to, the most progressive, forward-thinking school there is, and that they definitely preached every day, like, don't fear fat. Fat's good for you. But, whoa, not that much fat. Slow down.
Yeah.
I have. But now, even 2 years later, it's amazing. Everywhere I go, when I say I'm a ketogenic nutritionist, and people are like, "Oh, hey, I'm doing that," or "My niece is doing that," or it's really interesting how fast the word is spreading, and that podcasts and social media are all really to blame for that in a good way.
So you have a program. So you have a very popular YouTube channel. It's called Keto Carole podcast. If you search, my video podcast on YouTube is Keto Chat. Oh, Keto Chat.
I think if you search for Keto Carole, you should find it there. So
you started journaling and sharing your journey after you got this amazing results, and you started thinking, I need to share this with people and help other people learn what I've had happen to yourself. You wanted other people experience it. So kind of what's happened after that, how you develop these programs, and let's talk about those.
Yeah, I started with just blogging because I wanted to kind of document, just as my own journal of the experience I'd had. And then that quickly turned into, sharing on Facebook and just being really authentic with my own journey of what was happening. And it ended up with people, coming to me and like wanting help on that same journey. And I have a background, what I'd done in my practice before. I'd love to create programs and small group programs, because I just find they're so effective for helping people make change for a lot of reasons. And so and I also have a background of teaching. So I've taught various classes at different schools, and I really love teaching as well. And so it was just a natural progression that I take this passion and developing expertise in this ketogenic specialty that goes with my love of teaching and creating programs that are highly effective for people. So it was a natural evolution to create a program that could walk people through how do you start this to get the fastest results, and how do you fine tune it along the way so that you keep getting the best results for your body, and then have the support that goes along with that. But then also, any kind of dietary change that's going to be long-term requires people to address the psychological stuff that goes along with that behavior change. So they get all of that support as well.
That's a big part of it. 'Cause what I found, a couple things, is one, people want to know what to eat. It's like, all right, I hear this keto thing's really big and it'll help me lose weight. Or maybe what you're saying, the brain health part. And for me, it's my memory and brain fog from having adrenal fatigue, exhaustion for 5 years that, there's some damage up here that I can't remember things as well. Things aren't as clear as they used to be. My focus isn't great. And I think a lot of people don't realize, I think that's just as important as your losing weight is your mental health. And that's what the ketosis, keto adapted or, nutritional ketosis beneficial for, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the ladies that I primarily work with ladies. I do have men that come into my program as well, but the one goal they all have in common is that they want to lose weight. They're women that have tried every diet under the sun, and for decades they've lost a lot of weight, but they've always gained more back. And this is like the number one thing in their life. They're like trying to figure this out. And it's not because they're lazy and don't have willpower. These ladies have put so much work and effort into trying to resolve this, and they've tried everything, and they've gone to great lengths, and nothing has worked, and they feel like there's something wrong with them. And it turns out that no, it's the approaches that we've been telling people to do for so long, really. And so, that's the one overarching common thing they have, but they also have a lot of other things that are going on health-wise. So they all have a lot of fatigue and exhaustion. They have some aches and pains and on a continuum. So some of them just kind of have like joint aches and pains that they think are a normal part of getting older, but it turns out that isn't. And then some of them have some of them go so far as to having like some kind of a chronic injury or pain that's really not necessarily disabling, but it really impacts their life on a big level. A lot of them are reporting that brain fog and just not as good a memory as they used to have. And a lot of them also are having some kind of hormonal type issues, right? So it could be perimenopause symptoms. It could be PCOS or really bad PMS. Additionally, they always have some kind of subpar mental thing going on, right? So they might have depression that they've had for a long time, or anxiety, or those are kind of the big top ones that almost everybody I work with has that going on as well. Often they also have some kind of allergy or immune issue, right? So they're either allergic to a lot of different foods, or they're allergic to environmental stuff, or they've got some kind of autoimmune condition, whether it's skin or digestive. There's a whole long list of those. And so typically the people that I'm working with have a bunch of different things going on, and they might just be aware of the weight loss that they really want to do, and then they just think all this other stuff is a normal part of being an older human, right? So, that's just part of getting older, but it turns out that they aren't. And so, they get rid of all those other symptoms that go along with it. So.
Yeah, so that's funny because I always say, our goal at my Fitness Forward studio is to slow the aging process down. And now we're adding nutritional therapy at my studio, and Brian Carroll's an NTP and Seth Gal Dorothy. So 3 of us are trying to create more of a nutritional therapy, fitness forward, the holistic method, and have all this. But trying to explain to people what nutritional therapy is it's just finding this new challenge. Because a lot of times people just want to lose weight, but how the benefits of what you just said are all related to, would you not think, eating this high carb diet and the damage of eating so much sugar and having blood sugar dysregulation. So all those symptoms you just said, I would think, they are repairing your body a lot of times by going more of a higher fat, lower carbohydrate diet, which could end up in ketosis, right? So you're saying all these symptoms people come to you for, are they a result from too much stress and eating poorly for a long time?
Yeah. And even farther down the line of like root cause, blood sugar dysregulation is a sign of insulin resistance. And that ends up being the underlying commonality of all these different symptoms that people are having. And, really look at the health of the human population we have right now, especially in the United States and Canada, is that we've got a lot of symptoms, a lot of disease, and these things weren't around just even 200 years ago. And it's not because we're living longer, it's because we're living longer and less healthfully. We're over-consuming carbohydrates, especially the refined carbohydrates and sugars. And it's just in epic amounts more than we've ever consumed ever. And so that a ketogenic diet gets at the root cause of that insulin resistance. And you're right, like the degree of carbohydrate restriction that will benefit somebody varies from person to person. So not everybody needs a ketogenic diet in order to heal what they have going on. But it turns out that almost universally that everybody does benefit from some kind of carbohydrate restriction. So for some people, just doing like a paleo approach tends to, may be enough, or like a Whole30 approach, because they're cutting out refined sugars and things like that. But for some people, especially the ones that I work with, they've got a lot more insulin resistance going on. They need a much more intensive approach, a much more aggressive approach, and they need to restrict carbohydrates even further than somebody can do a paleo type approach and feel just great. So
that goes to my next question. Then we got to jump into what people eat, because I know that's a big question everyone has, and you can help them definitely with that with your program. So who should be in ketosis, and who should benefit from it? Because not everyone needs to be in ketosis, right?
Right.
We want to burn fat, but who needs to really be in ketosis? And that's what I keep having shows about. We don't all need to be in ketosis, but we need to be fat burners. So who needs to be more strict than others?
Right, exactly. Yeah, and we can start with a basic definition. Ketosis is the state in the body where there's enough ketones in the blood that they can be measured. And that varies from person to person of how you get there, right? So somebody might be able to eat 60 grams of carbs per day and be in ketosis. The people that I work with, they maybe need to be down to 10 or 20 grams per day or less to even get to ketosis. And that just speaks to their degree of insulin resistance. And so, insulin resistance basically is going to be the underlying, hurdle that people have to get over. So for some people, they can just do like 100 grams of carbs a day on more of a paleo approach. They're still cutting out refined sugars. But for them, they have, lower insulin resistance, and that might be enough for them to be able to start to lose weight and use fat as their primary fuel. So, So it definitely varies. So, there's the medical therapeutic applications of ketogenic diet. So that's where, we've got people with epilepsy and autism and brain cancers and other neurological issues like dementia and Alzheimer's. Those people definitely do really well on a ketogenic diet. I'm not going to say like they have to be, but they're going to be the people that are the most that's the most, number one indicator that somebody would benefit from it. We also find then that, people that have a very high degree of insulin resistance. And how do you know that? Well, if you've been fighting and battling your weight for a long time, and every year you weigh more than you did the year before, and you're getting to the point now where in your life where it's harder and harder to lose weight, and it requires greater and greater lengths to go to, that likely means that you've got a pretty high degree of insulin resistance. If you're somebody who's been yo-yo dieting for, decades of your life, then that's going to be a good fit. Yeah. Somebody who has, a lot of belly fat, so they have a lot of fat in the middle of their body, switching over to a ketogenic diet is going to very quickly use off that fat that's not only on our belly, but inside of our belly as well, and in the organs. So, and some people can do like the old Atkins style, where you do a really restrictive for a couple of weeks, and then as you get closer to reaching your goals, you taper off and do more of a moderate carb approach. That's also an approach that can work for people too. So, our leading researchers in ketogenic diets for weight loss, Dr. Westman and Volek and Finney, they say that everybody can benefit from being on a ketogenic diet. And then they look at the converse of a low-fat diet, and they say only about 30% of the population can can flourish on a low-fat diet. So everybody can do a ketogenic diet, and especially if they're supervised and have they're doing it the correct way. But as far as who doesn't need it, people that I would refer somewhere else. For example, if I'm talking to somebody and seeing if they're a good fit for working with me, I would see, if they only have like 10 pounds to lose, maybe 20 pounds, and it's just something that's, recently come on in their life, and for the most part, most of their life, they've been really, really healthy. I would encourage them to do just more of, some moderate carbohydrate restriction. They may not need a full ketogenic approach, but there are some benefits of being in the state of ketosis too, though. So for somebody like that maybe has fewer pounds to lose, I might encourage them to do like an intermittent fasting and maybe intermittent ketogenic diet, where there's periods of times that they are in ketosis, but more of the time they're moderate carbohydrate, because I really believe that our bodies are designed to have metabolic flexibility, that we should, if we go back to our ancestors, they lived a way where there were periods of time they were in ketosis, there were periods of time that they weren't. Their body could easily switch back and forth between those different fuel states. And that's really what I believe to be the way that our bodies are designed to be, and that should be healthy. Now, not everybody can get to that point. Some people can do ketogenic, a low-carb approach for a while and heal that, and then they can regain that metabolic flexibility. But most of the people that I'm working with, unfortunately, they need to end up doing a pretty aggressive carbohydrate restriction indefinitely. So is that help you enough with who should, who shouldn't? Or
yeah, I love it. So much information, because I keep asking that question to everyone: who needs to be in ketosis, and what is the difference of being a fat burner, fat adapted, or keto adapted? So do we need to be, if I'm burning fat, I'm still breaking down fat, so the byproducts are going to include ketones, but does that mean I'm in ketosis? That's always a big question, is what's the fine line if you want to be burning fat, but who needs to be not having any glucose at all and be relying on fat and ketones, right?
Well, our body's always going to have glucose on board. We're always going to make glucose. So that there's always a baseline of that. And I want to add as well, there's one more, like, who should not do a ketogenic diet. I just remembered that's important to throw out there, is that, being in ketosis mimics fasting in a lot of ways. And it can be a stressor on the body. And there's a lot of organizing and regeneration of things that are happening. And so, there's a group of people that really want to do a ketogenic diet because they're always looking for the perfect and optimal way to be, but for them, it's not going to be a good fit. So somebody who is normal weight or underweight, who's malnourished, has a lot of stress in their life. They struggle with maybe unhealthy nails and hair and skin because their body's so malnourished, and they're always trying to push it to the next level. And, maybe they're doing 2 hours of hot yoga a day and then running, 6 miles a day on top of that. And they're trying to be super healthy, but they're really actually, their body's just overworked and overstressed. To them, a ketogenic diet is going to sound super appealing, like, this is what I need, this is what I've been searching for. But unfortunately, it's going to not be a good fit for them, because you need some reserves. Like, when you're using fat for fuel, you need to have some fat there, and your body needs to be otherwise relatively healthy in order to be able to thrive in that state. And so that is a group of people that I've seen, they're like, I exercise 3 hours a day and I tried keto and it didn't work for me. Why not? What am I doing wrong? What do I need to do different? It's like, just take a breath, exercise less, and take a vacation in Mexico for a week. How about that?
Well, that's, I think, is a huge factor we always talk about, because of my experience and so many people that listen, I find, have too much stress. And so if you're already, like I was trying to be intermittent fasting, ketosis, trying to do really low carb, and training for Ironmans. And Greenfield did a good experiment for an entire year and found that he needs 100 grams of carbs a day from his experience. And he had some side effects of being too keto for too long. So I do think when you're doing a lot of endurance training, you can't go as low. And I think everybody's different. And that's why I'm interested to do the level. I was talking about, we had a podcast with them out that doing the breath test and see, you know, how low or how high or how many carbs you need to be able to still be burning fat. So do you measure people's fat burning or their ketones, the urine test, or do you do blood work, or how do you know if people are at ketosis?
Well, I work 100% remote. So I work with people all over the world, 4 different countries so far. And so I don't do any, you know, clinical stuff, you know, in an office where I'm checking anything on anybody. I typically, you know, the definition of being in ketosis and a ketogenic diet is that your body is in ketosis, and the only way to know for sure is to actually measure that and quantify that. So with blood testing, and I tend to be conservative on my recommendations for that, though, and there's reasons for that. Is that I tend to use actual checking of ketones as a resort to go to if things aren't working. If we're not getting the results and the signs and symptoms that things are improving, then it's one more thing to investigate. But I don't start there with everybody, actually, because I find that, you know, the approach that I have for almost everybody, it gets the results. And adding in another blood test checker, I've got my ketone meter packet here, but adding that in, I find it adds a lot of stress, right? So you probably worked with ladies that are hyper-focused on the scale and number on the scale, and they're weighing themselves not only every day, but multiple times a day, and they're like, why is it not going down or up? And they're freaking out about it, and it's so stressful, right? So I find for that type of person, having the ketone meter ends up being just like that. They get hyper-focused on, they're checking like 4 times a day, and they're like, why is it not? But the thing is stress is super potent at suppressing ketosis and weight loss and health and all this kind of stuff. And so I tend to not recommend it for everybody in the beginning, and then we'll add it in. And then even for some people, I have to tell them to take a vacation from the ketone testing because they get hyper-focused on that number and they get really upset and frustrated that it's not moving as fast as they want, or it's not doing exactly what they think it should do. So I tend to be really cautious with that for those reasons. So
that makes a lot of sense, because it's just like you're focused on, you make yourself dieting. It's not a diet, it's a way of eating, a new lifestyle and eating patterns. So if you're doing that, it's like same thing as going on a scale every day or doing your body fat test machine or something like that. You want to you overanalyzing instead of just enjoying the new eating habits, how you feel. Because that's what I want to get into. I know we're running out of time, and I could talk to you for hours on this because I'm so interested in this topic, and what you have to say is so fascinating to me. But the food plan, people always want to know what to eat. It's like,
right.
You know, there's a local weight loss center, 30-10, and a lot of people are into that, and it's just a lower carb, but people do well because researching this. Why do people lose weight when they have a food plan? They're told what to eat, but you're teaching people how to eat real food, not something packaged. So
right.
How do people be in ketosis? It's the way we eat. So how do we eat? What do you tell people? How do you help them?
Yeah. Oh gosh, where do I go with that?
You have a cookbook.
I have different strategies that I help people with. I mean, the typical route and everything else out there you're going to read about a ketogenic diet is based on these percentages, and we call them macros. And macros is short for macronutrients. In nutrition school, we learn our macronutrients are carbs and fats and protein. And the key to getting into ketosis is that you have to get your carbs and protein low enough to get into ketosis. Carbs and protein, there's 2 ways that they suppress ketosis. One is their insulin response in the body. So insulin is the opposite of ketosis. So anything that causes an insulin release is going to suppress or prevent ketosis. But the other thing is that the breakdown of proteins and carbohydrates, those enter into our. Have you learned about the TCA cycle yet in your nutrition training? It's basically the energy cycle in our body is that proteins and carbohydrates can enter that TCA cycle, and if they do, they suppress ketosis. They prevent the other energy pathway from happening. And so in order to get to ketosis, we've got to figure out the right amount of carbs and protein for our body. And fat then ends up being what's left over. So fat for the most part, except to a very tiny degree, doesn't affect our ability to get to ketosis. And so if you've got to keep carbs low and you've got to keep protein moderate, then you've got to eat a lot of fat or you're not eating at all. So, there's a lot of myths out there that people think they need to eat a certain amount of fat to get to ketosis, and that's not true at all. Fat doesn't make you in ketosis. It just allows you to eat something so that you can feel full and satisfied. Now, fat has a lot of benefits to it. Like there's essential vitamins in there. There's essential fats that we need to be alive and healthy. So it's not that fat is just like this extemporaneous thing that we don't need, but people also mistakenly think that they need fat to get to ketosis, and so I've got to eat a certain amount of fat to get to ketosis. So there's a lot of confusion, and it can, understanding where that all comes from. I know we don't have time to get into all that today, but it ends up being, dropping. So carbohydrates are our non-essential macronutrient. So when there's no amount of carbohydrates that we need to be alive, because our body can actually make the small amount that our bodies need. We make carbohydrates from proteins, and we can make it from fat too, interestingly. We do need protein, though. Protein is essential for life, and so, but too much of it prevents ketosis. And so a ketogenic diet ends up being a very low carb, moderate protein, so just enough but not too much. And then the rest of it comes from fat. So it ends up being a high fat diet, because if you're having, low to no carbs and moderate protein, then the most of your calories are coming from fat. So, and so then it just becomes, I've got a way that I teach my clients, because the people that I'm working with are very insulin resistant. So I've got a very, very low carbohydrate, moderate protein approach, and we'll fine tune the amount of protein. Some people need to go at the lower end of the scale, and then we start to work our way into intermittent fasting and perhaps some longer term fasting as well, because some of the people that I'm working with, they're so insulin resistant that even at the most aggressive ketogenic approach, they still can't get to ketosis. And so it does take intermittent fasting and then some longer term fasting as well for them to finally be able to get there. So there's no one size fits all keto diet. There's no here's exactly what everybody does and this works for everybody. It unfortunately doesn't work that way. So that's why it takes some expert guidance for people to be able to figure it out. And I talk to people all the time that are like, I tried keto, it didn't work. It's like, well, you probably weren't quite doing it right.
I had a girl say that the other day, and she's already tiny, skinny person, so she didn't need to lose weight at all, but her friend lost weight doing it. So she was doing the same program she was, nothing was happening. I'm like, well, no one is different. It's not one size fits all. It's not the same program for everybody, so you got to tweak it. So that's great to hear you say that. That's not just, here's a program, buy it on my website, everyone follows the same program. It's different per person, but you're also teaching them how to eat. So you're working with their health and all their elements there and proper digestion. Because what I learned, if your stomach HCl isn't right and your liver gallbladder is not working, even if I'm doing lower carb, high fat, well, I'm not digesting my fats. That's a big problem. And I think a lot of people out there that aren't nutritional therapists don't have that training, so they're not teaching people that part of it, that you need to be able to digest your foods properly and process those fats. But what to eat, I think, is huge. So tell us about your program, and we'll give people the links in the show notes. And because I think people always want to know, what do I eat? And tell me, just here's the menu plan. Deliver it to my house even. But here's a menu plan and make my meals for me.
We're getting closer to that. I'm always seeking out a personal chef that could do that services. And, we're starting to see some of those meal delivery services that are getting closer. There's a lot of them that do paleo. And so we're getting closer to that. And I really encourage people to eat real food. Let's combine paleo, ancestral health, and the carb restriction that fits with whatever you need. We can all agree that that's going to be the healthiest thing for people, is moving away from processed foods, packaged foods and refined things. We've never shown that those are healthier than just the stuff that comes from the earth, in its most natural state. And so, my program is really a comprehensive, education and support program. And so part of it is online training modules. So I put together all of my wisdom and information in an easy to understand format for people to really understand it. I find it's really empowering when people understand what's happening in their body. Like, why are we cutting back on carbs? Why do I tell you to eat moderate protein instead of just following a meal plan blindly and not understanding why? If you only follow meal plans, you're going to be dependent on it forever. Right? And if you understand the why of what's happening in your body, not only will you be able to do it long term, but you'll be able to understand what you need to fine tune for yourself. So, my program is an intensive training program or education program, but in a very easy to understand way for people to get that. But it also has a lot of support, right? Most people need a lot of guidance and cheerleading, but also just direction and how, from expertise, how do you fine tune this? What do you deal with when this comes up, right? So no book or one size fits all meal plan is ever going to be able to help anybody do that. And so not only do people get my expert guidance as a nutritionist, but I also have 3 other coaches as part of my program. And one of them specializes in mindset stuff.
Okay.
And she is like our secret weapon. She came up with a phrase that she's our keto mindset roadside assistant. And so whenever anybody's having a breakdown on the side of the road and they're have some kind of a challenge coming up, or they're feeling just super frustrated, like they get one-on-one time with her, and she's got all these really great mind tricks basically that can help break patterns and stuff like that. So and then we've got peer support coaches that help people that have been through my program, and so they know how to get the best results with that. So, and I do provide meal plans, right? So people need that template to start with. So they've got meal plans to start with, but ultimately I'm teaching them how do you do this as a lifetime approach. And so it's like the intensive training wheels period, right? We've got this short-term intensive support and training, and then we take the training wheels off at the end and we see, can you ride the bike? Can you ride the keto bike all by yourself? And most of them are like, yes, I got this. You gave me everything I needed, and I'm on my way. I'm riding the bike now. So I'm doing triathlons aren't sustainable, right? But they're able to ride, swim, and run all on their own after that. So it gets phenomenal results because it is so comprehensive, and I've identified what is it that people really need to get results on this. It addresses the emotional and the stress eating that a lot of people fall prey to and fall off track with as well. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what I pulled together for people. So
that's perfect. Well, I'm laughing because I always, every day I think I'm saying, okay, why is that? And then why? So I always want clients, especially, working with their bodies as a personal trainer, like, you need to know what this exercise is for. What am I focusing on? And I think that when people are eating or changing as a health coach, teaching them, figure out what's your why, and all right, you said that, now why is that? Why do you feel that way? Now, blah, blah, blah. So you always have to dig deeper and be that investigator and, putting the pieces of the puzzle together and figure it out. But I think for long-lasting results, if people need to change and eat this way for their lifestyle, rest of their life, is they have to understand why. And then it becomes so easy to do. And you don't even realize, what I can't eat. I always tell people, focus what you can eat and enjoy it, and then you realize how good you feel and how much clearer your mindset is and how much happier you are. And then you don't really worry, oh, I'm not eating all that other stuff. It just, because then you have it, then you realize how much it makes you feel like crap.
Yes.
It's like, oh, that scone sounded so good, but now I'm just in a sugar coma for the rest of the day and people are damaged goods. So it's good.
Yeah. I was doing some research for my book the other day, and I actually found research that found that, when we avoid sugars and carbohydrates, the genetic expression of our ability to taste sweet downregulates. And so I've noticed that with people, myself and then my clients, it's like they're around sweets after a while and it doesn't even sound good to them anymore. Mm-hmm. And for a lot of them, that's the first time they've ever noticed that in their entire life. They're like, that's weird, what's going on here? But now I understand, that's always been part of what I taught people, is to avoid sweets for a while, so we reprogram your taste buds. And now it's like, there's actually research that explains why that happens. And so that is something people report, is like, it's just weird. I was around these things that before I could never resist, and it's like they didn't even look good to me anymore. They didn't even sound good. So that's a benefit that people experience. Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. And I know we could talk about this a lot more, but I know we got to wrap up, but what is your website again? Where do you want to send people to get that great information and get started with you on your coaching program?
Yeah, there's a lot of great information just on my primary website. So Keto Carole, I was named after my grandmother, so my Carole has an E on the end. So Keto Carole, CAROLE.com. And from there, you can see I've got a free 7-day meal plan. If you want to download that and take a look at that, it's fast and easy meals. I've got a full month meal plan. I've got a tab on there with all my videos as well, so you can go see all my interviews that I've done. And I've interviewed a lot of different people about keto on there. And links to my Instagram. A lot of people, you're asking a lot about like, well, what do you eat? My Instagram is a really great place to see photos of my food. So yeah. And then also there you can get updates about my book that I have coming out soon as well from my website. So.
And what's your book called?
Well, we don't have a title yet, so
so stay tuned on your social media posts to find out what the book is called when it's coming out. Good.
Yes, and that's going to be focused on a ketogenic diet, how to do it for best results. So
good. So just to finish up, we do have, I should see if you want to come out in Seattle to my studio in Bellevue, Washington, Burn Fat Seminar I'm hosting. So I'll have to Sunday, June 4th in Seattle. So see if you want to come speak there. So we're trying to teach people how to become fat burners. And I think we're going to do a fat burning club. I think so much of it's teaching people to burn fat, no matter what ratio of foods, you have to change and get healthier from the inside out. It begins with everything you've been talking about today. So thanks for sharing that, being on the same mission and helping other people change their lives and have this whole body transformation from changing the way we eat and thinking about food and our relationships to food and, the rest of it, the stress and the sleep and just taking care of ourselves is huge. So thank you, Carole, for coming on the show, and we'll put all that stuff in the show notes and people can find the video and we'll be in touch. Follow your progress.
Thank you for having me, Debbie. It's been really fun. You're right. We could talk forever.
Okay. Thanks, Carole.
All right. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Whole Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at wholeathletepodcast.com. You can help us continue and grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and see you next time.